conversation flowing in this direction.
A man or children or anything else to make me happy. I have all that I need. So yeah, I felt like you tried to like kind of talk me into a corner that day. You also said that 80% of the things that I feel like I want out of life, I won't get if I have a child.
Ooh, baby. All right. So Morgan and Blake, it's been brewing for a few weeks now. There's been conversation here and there in the corridors, and it's finally come to blows. But I want to get your thoughts on this conversation. What did you glean? What did you gather? Maybe you have an unpopular opinion. It's good to give different points of view. So I want to know. I want to know what you guys' thoughts are. Yeah, I want to know what people's thoughts are. The faces looking onwards are ominous and interesting. Who would like to go first? Well, since we have two people who haven't got a camera, go for it, Corey. 'Cause I was going to pick you anyway. I really was.
Yeah. So, yeah, I honestly think that the interaction. I think Morgan. I lost a little respect for her. You know, the reason why I say that is because in the beginning she said she was open to the meeting. You know, they had a conversation. He said his words were, "I apologize for how I made you feel." Right? He didn't necessarily say hurt at first, but she was giving off vibes that he did hurt her because she kept naming things that he said and whatever. He was trying to apologize. I saw that effort. I also saw that he said, what did he say? He said, "You know, I wish you the best of luck." And then she came back with, "I hope I never see you again. I hope you die." It's really a lot of negative energy from her. So yeah, my respect for Morgan just really, really went the opposite direction. I thought she was a very beautiful woman, but with attitudes like that, that attraction goes down for me. So if she was open to it, I would have seen some signs. We all would have seen some signs of her being open to it, but she really wasn't. She allowed him to speak. What I heard was respectful, unless something was edited out, you know. But what I heard was respectful. He was trying to own up to it, and she just didn't want to hear it. She just wanted to give him a piece of her mind. So that was her purpose of being there in the first place, giving a piece of her mind. When he greeted her, he said, "Hello, pretty lady." Gave her a compliment then, and she just nothing he could do, nothing he could say would have made this conversation go a lot better the way it was supposed to go. So again, I just think that Morgan was out of pocket.
Can I go next, Kojo? You know, here's the thing with Morgan, and you can't tell people how to deal with conflict, which is the older I get, I realize that everyone deals with conflict differently. But I really believe that Morgan probably should have addressed Blake and her grievance with Blake when he did what he did, but instead she held on to it. And it kind of looked like a pile on when she finally addressed it. And it didn't look like the punishment kind of fit the crime at that point in time. But I think it would have been best if she would have addressed him closer to the time where he actually offended her, so it didn't look like she was so unhinged. Because I think she came across as unhinged, but I think her grievance was actually real. And even with his little slick remark, because I think you guys have to remember Blake does a lot of underhanded bullcrap. And he may have seemed like he was like being cool, calm, and collected, but he was even taking shots at her in the men's lounge, talking about she wants a baby at all costs. That was a very nasty thing to say. And if he said that, which she gave no indication that she wants a baby at all costs, which is very disrespectful to someone who is pushing, who's about 40 years old or 39 or whatever she is, who does want a kid, but not at all costs. He's very nasty with that statement. And I don't know what else he's probably said on the low or on the side or to her, which has made her upset. So I think we have to be mindful that Blake is one of these people who does stuff and hides his hands. And that's the reason why he beefing with Jeffrey like he is, because they both do stuff and hide their hands. And that's why they're beefing. Because people who see traits in each other that remind them of themselves usually don't like each other. And that's their problem. So would I say that Morgan's response was right in the moment? No, I wouldn't really handle it that way. I think she came off pretty nasty. Was I entertained by it? I thought it was kind of funny that she read him his rights. But because Blake is so underhanded, I just think it looks like he's getting beat up on, when in fact I think he's actually doing things. But I do think that Morgan came off as a mean girl and kind of unhinged. And yeah, I think she needs to work on not holding on to things and addressing folks when they actually do the bull crap that they do, so she don't look like she's coming out of thin air. Yes, and I did think part of it was funny. I did. It was an entertaining scene. Maybe y'all didn't think it was funny. That's why we all have different senses of humor. But yeah, I do think she could have handled it differently.
Yeah, so for me, I think that it points out to Morgan, I'm saying this real quick. It points out to Morgan, the thing that points out to me for her is the fact that she can find something wrong in what everyone else is doing, but her. She hasn't had an opportunity, or maybe not just not had the opportunity to say anything about what she's doing wrong, what things she can work on. But with Anthony, he's doing something wrong. With Tony, he's doing something wrong. It's everyone around her. She can point the finger real good at what someone is saying towards her, how someone mistreated her, or someone's not doing this or doing too much of or something else. She can always do that, but she's not taking any accountability for how she's behaving. And I think someone needs to hold her accountable for that. Yeah, because she can't tell. I'm sorry, nobody. You gotta be quick. Okay, so she can't tell Tony he can't talk to other women. She's not in a position to do that. Just like I said, telling Anthony, what he needs to do, like coaching him up. She's not in the position to do that. Like, you get what you want or you move on. That's all, y'all. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, good. Go for it, Sam.
My friend Morgan went a little too hard on Blake. She went too hard on him. I agreed with everything Siwe said, honestly. The timing was so wrong. I wish she went ham at him like that at the beginning, but if she did, she probably would have been eliminated. But yeah, she went too harsh on him. The stuff that he did say at the beginning of the show, whenever it was time for elimination, that she wanted the baby at all costs, I don't really know what he based himself on to say that. He doesn't know that girl to say stuff like that. And fertility is a very, very sensitive topic. I know about it. I'm 35 and I don't have kids yet. So there's some type of pressure that comes in with fertility. So maybe that was like a touchy point for my friend Morgan. And I'm just playing when I say my friend Morgan. But I did feel that she went a little bit harsh. And I agree with Siwe when she said that Blake is appearing meek. But I want to see the things that make people so angry at him. Like, I'm getting a little anxious. Like, I want to see that side of Blake that Jeffrey has been talking about, that Morgan is talking about, because if I don't see it at some point, I'm going to feel like he's being attacked. I do want to say that he took it really well. I have to give it to him. This is the second time this guy is getting attacked on TV. Maybe wrong or not, it's looking really, the way he reacted on TV, I don't know if I could have done better, but it seems like there's a lot going on. But if really Morgan is only basing herself based on what he said at the beginning of the show, I felt like it was a little too much. That's it for me.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think, like, listen, obviously something's going on. I don't think that all the ladies are making up these things about Blake. However, I gotta say, for somebody that has been like railed multiple times, he just definitely handles himself well. So respect to him, because we done seen many a guy on Ready to Love go off or mismanage it, Look at Charisse and old boy last season, flew off the handle. That couldn't be what's his name? The guy. Who?
Zoe.
Yeah, Zoe. Yeah, that couldn't have been him and Morgan. He'd have flipped that table. So, listen, got to give Blake credit. Maybe he's healed. Maybe he's learned a little bit from what are the things that people are alleging. But I got to think, like, at the end of the day, if you have no genuine interest, if you never had a connection with them, why are you giving them so much of your energy? And that, to me, speaks more about Morgan and her combativeness, because you don't even have an interest in him, but yet you have all this venom and energy to go after him. That, to me, tells me that you are a very combative person. And although you might be right about some of the assessments you made about him, if the person, like, because she was very clear to say, he don't mean you never hurt my feelings or blah, 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 blah. Then if your feelings aren't hurt, he's not a connection of yours, you think you're going to change his behavior by going off on him and telling him he's the worst thing in the world? No, it's just you're unloading. And for me, that kind of person, that energy is not attractive. And if I were Tony and I knew that that interaction took place, it would be a turnoff to me, because why are you investing so much energy into a man that you don't want and you feel like you got to check and correct? Yeah, I'm done with that. You don't need to check and correct a man if he's not in your life. If you don't have a relationship with him and you see him for what he is, then move accordingly, and don't give all that energy, because that's stuff that resides in you. When you waste time and you're ugly with somebody, that means that there's feelings, and that's something in you. And Blake he was like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and we're going to go ahead and move on. Have a great day. Take care. And I think that's the best way you handle that when somebody goes off on you like that. I think he taught us a lot, just like old boy did with what's her name? With the Z from Maryland, right? He handled that situation very well. Again, doesn't mean they're perfect people. I'm just saying it takes a very, you gotta be in control of your emotions when you get confronted that way. And he did a good job in that.
Step in here. I think that Blake has this thing where he knows what age group he's in, like my demo of women, and a lot of them are successful women, are trying to build families and stuff like that. So I think that he goes hard trying to discourage women from wanting children or whatever, or say your life would be so much better without them, so that he has more options. I think that's what he did in the beginning. But for Morgan to come in that hot weeks for an event that took place weeks ago, that comment that he made, or backing her into the corner, it just seemed out of place. And she's also coming in hot based on a third party conversation that she wasn't on the phone for Blake and Jeffrey. So I think it did come off that way. Like she unloaded on the guy. But I will say, as being prior military myself, and I know he has a military background, we can be berated and screamed at in our face and not say anything back. And he may have some sociopathic tendencies. We don't know what he does when he goes to the car. He could punch himself repeatedly because he's so angry. But one thing to his credit that Jeffrey and Morgan don't do is they don't know how to pull it back for the cameras. Because you got to think about it. You may not meet your person here. It may not be your forever situation. But this is being broadcasted to the world. And you are on national TV looking unhinged, very much pressed, and very much bothered for a man who, from you guys' own testimony, hasn't tried to reinstate himself into your lives, or he hasn't been calling and blowing up Jeffrey like, hey, I want to get, she hasn't said that anything has happened since episode 2 or whatever. So for there to be so much energy and eye rolling and stuff like that, you are making yourself look unhinged, or he knows that if I stay cool, you're going to look like the idiot. So it's when you see somebody who has that ability to disconnect and just sit there and take it, you have to know how to pull back, because then you start looking like the aggressor, you start looking like the fool, and you start playing yourself. So, yeah.
Okay. So I absolutely loved this scene. I loved it. I was eating it up. Absolutely loved it. You know, it was so entertaining. So entertaining. I loved it. There's a lot of character development for both of them. Okay. And I was just like, thank you so much, because now I know so much about both of you. First of all, this scene was orchestrated by the producers, because there was no way that this conversation had to happen. They've kept Blake in there for a reason, okay? Because he induces a lot of emotion from these women, and they knew that putting these two together, television gold, and I absolutely loved it, okay? Blake, you don't want to argue with Blake, because you're going to lose. Because he's very emotionally detached, that he can just focus on the logic and focus on the task at hand. You're not going to trigger him. You're not going to catch him out. So she was trying, digging, saying all these things. And the more she said, and the less he was disinterested. But because she, again, I'm not diagnosing her, because she has this anxious avoidance style, the more somebody kind of backs away and is not giving her something, the more she's going to keep going, okay? That's why she kept on going. She just could not stop herself, because she needed to know that she had made an impact, and she needed to make him feel something. And he was just like, you're not about to catch me slipping on this national television, okay? One thing about me is I'm going to keep my cool. And so it was interesting having that dynamic. And I do feel like Blake has an avoidant attachment style, which is why he's just so removed. You will never win an argument with somebody like that. There's just no point. Absolutely no point. So that's something that I kind of identified when he was talking, but he's very matter of fact. So I do believe that he said those things about Morgan, because it's very cutthroat. He definitely said those things because he's just very matter of fact. You want kids, blah 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 blah, and you're not gonna get these things. You're not gonna get all the things that you want once you have kids. Very matter of fact. But he does have a point. As somebody with a daughter, when you have a child or you have children, your life changes. I'm not saying that you can't get the things that you want, but the speed in which it happens, you need to sacrifice. The first few years of their lives, you need to sacrifice. So I think he's just not able to articulate himself in a way where he's still compassionate in his message and what he's trying to say. He's just very matter of fact. It's like he's on the spectrum. Like, people who are on the spectrum sometimes can't read emotion. They can't read the room. He's very much, well, this is a fact, and I'm going to tell you how it is. He did try to humanize the situation by apologizing first to be like, I'm sorry that I upset you, or this, that, and the other. And then she was just, oh, you didn't upset me. It was very much like she just had to be right at all costs, which is why I think she has these different types of communication styles, right? I feel like she wanted to come across as though she was being assertive, but she definitely has much more of an aggressive conversational style, in that she has to be right. The tone that she uses, however, means that your point is lost. Even though she had a point in that you upset me, but she can't communicate her emotions properly. Now she has to attack this man. Instead of saying, I was really upset by the fact that you are insinuating that I'm desperate to have a child and that my life, has no meaning because I have no... Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, she could not communicate that. But instead she had to attack him for her to do that. I think this will be a really great reflection piece for her if she's able to do that, to kind of look back at this, to be like, oh gosh, why did I go off so bad? Maybe I am triggered. Maybe the fact that I'm 39 and I don't have any children, I'm not married, maybe it's getting to me more than I realize. And the fact that this man was so direct and was not compassionate when he was saying those things to me really impacted me. So it was great character development for the both of them. Morgan, she has a lot of work to do, and so does Blake. I think that he definitely said those things, but he knows how to win an argument. There was no point in having that argument with him. But yeah, I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it.
Who's next? He hasn't spoken yet. Hasn't told us their thoughts. Go for jail.
So I think that Morgan had absolutely no intention of actually having a date. She just wanted to call him out because she was triggered by what he said back in episode 1 at the mixer. So she was fronting, as you guys say, she was faking the funk when she said she wasn't hurt by what he said, because there's no way you cling on to something for that long when you have connections that you're supposedly feeling, and then like hold it all that time, seething in the ladies' lounges, saying that the guys shouldn't be there and all this other stuff. You turn up there only to call him out for what he said. So first of all, she was hurt. She was very upset by what he said. Otherwise, she wouldn't have brought it up. She would have been able to move on. She didn't let it go. And it doesn't matter what he said. He apologized, didn't matter. If he didn't apologize, he would have still got the same treatment. So I'm not sure why she thinks that it's okay to unleash like that in a show where you're supposed to be dating and trying to have connections. Because if Blake goes back to the men's lounge and tells the guys what happened, or again votes her off, because he's been naming her and Jeffrey as the connections that he has the least connectivity with, right? He wants both of them to go home. So I agree. On a national TV show, like, you could have carried yourself better. You could have let it slide. There was no intent on having a connection or any type of date. It was just to call him out. You don't like the guy, that's fine. Just like Jeffrey, move on if you don't like him. You've got connections there that you do like. Focus on that. And in terms of character development, I did see a lot of character development in Morgan. I didn't really realize how angry she can get, and how the self-control aspect or the self-awareness element, that's not there for me. So on this episode, I picked up her interactions with Tony, where we've already discussed what she was doing, what she was saying, how she was acting, and how she tried to gather up Blake. Again, she didn't have to, but she chose to. And like I said, I'm not one for the combative and all that nonsense. Like, I'm not going to give no one a pass if you do that, because I think you need to have self-awareness. You need to be aware of the fact that just because you like or dislike someone, you don't have to vent or show it in that way. I'm sure if any of the guys didn't like a lady, we saw that with what's his name, Zoe, when he went at Charisse. That energy is off. There's no need to do it. If you don't like someone, just keep it moving. There's no need to want to sit down and chastise someone for what they said weeks ago if you weren't hurt. The fact is you were hurt, so admit it, own it, and then deal with it in a better way so that it doesn't make you come across like you have such a major issue. I'll leave it there.
Hey, I just want to really just touch on a one point that I think I missed when I joined, but I just want to speak on it. I think with Morgan and Tony, I think they actually deserve each other because of their behaviors, because of their mindsets. The reason why I say that is because, Morgan has this mindset, at least to me, this is just my opinion here, but it seems he has this mindset of she's always being pursued. So for Blake to make up his mind as soon as he did, as far as her not being for him, no matter what that reason for, I think it did something to her. Same thing with as far as being the top one pursued when it comes to Tony. She doesn't want him pursuing anyone else but her. She wants to be, you know, at the top, which most women do. I have no doubt, I understand that. But she's not even letting the game play. She wants to control that situation. Now, that was two things that was asked that I noticed. I just want to speak on it really quickly. It's the question that Morgan had for Tony. She asked Tony, and Mercedes asked Mark Anthony the same question. What do you like about me? When Morgan asked Tony, his response was, we look good together. That was it. Beautiful answer. When Mercedes asked Mark Anthony the same question, he mentioned a personality and smile. No depth, no nothing else. So when people are asking that, especially when a woman is asking that question, she needs an answer that's going to set her apart from everyone else. Not just your personality, not just your smile, not just your eyes, what it is she does for you and what it is you do for her, you know. So I wanted to mention that because I wanted to mention the fact that those answers were horrible for that type of question. And for the ladies in the chat, just be mindful when you ask a man those questions that you get something back with more meat to it. That's all.
Cheers, Corey. Anyone else thoughts on the Morgan and Blake clash? Anyone else got a thought? Anyone else got a opinion? No? Everybody done up? No one else got any contributing thoughts?
I just want to see Blake when the camera are not on. Everybody, you know, he seems so calm in front of the camera that I'm at a point where I'm wondering if he's being attacked for no reason. But I don't think he's being attacked for no reason. I just want to see Blake behind the camera.
I mean, technically, he's only been attacked by two people, Jeffrey and Morgan. No one else actually is attacking him, to be fair. So,
I mean, not attacked, but put on blast, I would say. Like, you know, and he's like blank. I do believe that he said the thing to Jeffrey, FYI, but I don't know. You know, when you fight with someone that the person is not responsive, it almost make you look like you really like mean because the other person is not responsive.
So what should he do?
What should me? I would personally. I wouldn't have sat with Blake because I'm the type of person that if I'm not able to tell you right away what's bothering me, I'm not gonna wait for weeks and come at you like this. Like I'll need to move on. I don't have time. Life is too short. So I don't relate on Morgan for that. I feel like she should have said it then. What you told me, I didn't appreciate. You do not know me from anywhere, you know. Your experiences are your own. Obviously, you've been hurt, which I agree with her when she said that. The comments that he made about 80% of parents, I mean, I thought that was not well said. Maybe he was trying to say something, but if I have to interpret what he said, I would doubt it. I would want to double check his facts. Yeah.
No, fair. Anyone else? Sophie, you haven't? I don't know if I heard you.
One thing that Morgan said, and when Blake said, "I'm sorry, I hurt you," and she was like, "You didn't hurt me." So like she made that very clear. And then in the confessional, she said, "He doesn't have the power to hurt me." And so I don't know what Morgan's issue with power and control is. Like she hasn't been in love before. I know she's grew up religious, but she seems to want to feel a certain amount of power, and she does a lot of power plays, which is why she's playing with the Lyndon dynamic to, you know, reassert power, and why she wants, she would like for Tony to just hone in on her and make it clear so that she has the emotional control, I guess, or safety. But it's something to the fact that she used the word, "You don't have the power to do that," and that she plays with this element of control a lot, it seems like. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if she's never had a significant relationship or she just never allowed herself to fall in love, but I'm not sure where that's coming from.
That's a fair point. Control is a big thing. Go for it, Soph.
Yeah, I think Blake, that is kind of one of his tools that he uses. He doesn't react much, right? He's not easily offended, and even if he is offended, he's not going to show you. So he's not going to, and that could make people feel like, oh my, what's wrong with him? Why isn't he reacting? But in a way, that's a way for him to control himself and not share too much about himself. So not reacting to what people are saying to him could be a complete tactic. It could be a skill that he's picked up along the way. And he's not easily offended, or at least he shows that he's not easily offended. But on the other hand, when after Jeffrey insulted him or said those things about him, he did confront her face to face, and he did it in a very collective manner, not in a out of control manner. So, and that's something that Morgan could learn from, even though, the interaction between them was definitely interesting, but Morgan could learn to kind of taper her reactions too, and not be so quick to how she expresses her emotions. Sometimes it could show that she's trying to be in control and maybe out of context and maybe out of anger, reacting out of emotions rather than actually looking at the steps as to what happened. So, but yeah, I think Blake that's one of his powers, is to really hold back his emotions, really hold back and not be offended.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Go for it, Siwe.
I'm just happy that there's women on this panel that are seeing these type of red flags, because that gives me hope, because I really believe that a lot of us end up in bad situations with people like Blake because we're easily manipulated. It is, like Latoya said earlier, it was a really good point. There's a lot of people that respond in very passive aggressive, matter-of-fact ways to conflict, and people automatically assume that they're less problematic than the people who kind of address conflict in more boisterous, loud ways,